Welcome to From an Educator. Today's theme is titled Mixed Bag. Welcome back to From an Educator. I'm Mr. James, an educator. And yes, today's episode is called Mixed Bag. And if we know anything about mixed bags, they're mixed, right? Just means a collection of things that might not be related in some way. It is show number 65. It is currently July 4th. It is a Sunday, and it is overcast and rainy. It's been rainy for the past 2.5 days here in Maine, where I am. And yeah, no fireworks tonight. We'll have fireworks tomorrow. Not that that has been exciting for me in the past 10 years or so. In fact, actually, one year I had fireworks, professional fireworks from a public thing that a city did, one of the bigger cities in Maine, and a giant green fireball flew from behind me, right in front of me, blew up, and something landed, some sort of like other mini fireball landed on my shirt and started burning it. And I had to put it out. My friend was next to me and he's like, "What?" And he jumps out of the way. People are screaming, crying. What a mess. So that was I think it was my last time in public. Well, maybe not, but yeah, it's one of those things. Me and fireworks don't seem to have a good relationship. But yes, today is the 4th and summer is underway. And yeah, I've still been busy. And last week, Mr. Ritchie, of course, met up with me. We had a podcast and we're having some plans for more podcasts with We Are the Educators, as well as possibly a difference with the show, especially for the summer. We'll get back to our probably regular seasons if he continues to want to do this sort of thing in the fall. And hopefully this fall will go better than we expect it to go, I guess. I think right now I'm experiencing what it might be like in a small scale, and not so bad, but still a mixed bag. So here are some updates in my main life. I guess the entire show basically is my main life because it's me talking, right? It's a monologue. But I just want to fill in some of the blanks from the past few weeks, because last week I think, I was talking a bit about what I was doing, but not going too much to detail. Usually when you have another person on the show, it's sort of like a duet, and you kind of trade back and forth, and you get to say only so much, but it's all for the sake of having something that is more succinct. So I don't want to bore anybody. And I definitely, when I edit these things, I try to get rid of the most boring aspects of my rants. So I'm going to rant less. And notice I'm in a hoodie today. Yeah, it says Maine at the bottom. Pretty comfortable hoodie. I know, normally in a shirt of some, or a tie of some sort, but rainy days, relaxing. This is a day off for me. So I'm definitely going to dress like that. So summer school is in full swing. The last week, I've been teaching for the full 5 days. And this next week is going to be 4 days, because tomorrow is going to be another day off for July 4th being observed. And summer school is totally a mixed bag. I have 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders in my class. Great diversity. I like the fact that I'm teaching math, literacy, and STEM, and not music. And I can focus more on these and get some ideas of what I might want to include in the fall with my music curriculum, because honestly, I want it to relate to everything. And this is just a great way to do that. It's also great that I get to see students, because we have probably, between the summer school program I'm working at and the other one that's going on to school at the same time, which is only 3 days a week compared to the 5 that I'm working, we have about a quarter of the population. So just having my presence there is one of those things that I think is going to help, at least with some more classroom management. Because if you're in the lives of children and they see you more often, then they're probably going to, care more about how they act around you. At least we hope, right? I'm currently taking a college class, as I mentioned before. It's actually a class about learning English as a second language. And it's interesting. It's something I would love to devote more time to. But as it is, I try to get everything done within a day or two and then, check back every day to see who I can respond to as an online thing, as well as some synchronous meetings. But yeah, I just, my head can't be completely in that game right now because there's so many things going on. Of course, the state's opening up back into the way things, I guess, were. At least that's what everyone wants it to be. And I'm seeing on the news restaurants opening, the way they were before, people together. There are people unvaccinated. I guess whatever. We can't do anything about that. They want people who are vaccinated, but you're not gonna keep out everybody, and people are gonna lie because they said whatever. Everyone wants everything to be the way things were. Nobody wants to learn their lesson, I guess. And that's not everybody. In general, I feel like this should be a lesson learned of being more cautious and being in a more of a survival mode. And I feel like right now it's kind of, it's wavering. I still remain kind of in that mode, but I don't go out a lot anyways. And when I do in stores, at least I'm wearing a mask. Surprisingly, in the school though, as of Wednesday of last week, the governor of our state lifted the ban for mask wearing and in schools. And so everyone had their mask off. And I did take my mask off. And I stayed away from everybody. I'm not in anyone's face. And I have a lot of fans and a lot of air circulation in the room. At the same time, it's scary. People are looking at my mouth and they're like, you, and I'm like, yeah, I have a mouth. Yes. And it just feels weird. And I don't know. I still want to grab, I'm still keeping masks with me at any time. I definitely will be playing some gigs soon. And I know there are going to be people outside smoking and it's going to be smells that I just don't want to deal with. And I might just put on a mask for that. And it's not going to be weird anymore, right? It's not going to be weird to wear a mask because for so long we've wore masks. And in a few days or a few weeks, I will have the super uber mask that Mr. Ritchie and I had purchased many moons ago, I guess. So I want a chance to take that out for a spin, I guess. Still don't know what the fall is going to be like, but it's one of those things. I currently also have a reading backlog. I have to finish a book that I just need to read. I need to read something for the class, and I have 2 other books that came in, and it's just like it's not enough time. And to sit back and read it in my world, it takes effort. I try to do a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night, but I don't have the hours that I had when I was much younger to just lay in my bed and just read. I have too many things to do. I have things to take care of, a house to run, all that stuff. So just know when you get older, if you're younger, listen to this, young being what? Teens, adolescent, teens, 20s, I guess even 30s, right? Early 30s. When you get older, you have less time to read. And yet that's the time when you should be doing more reading. You should be reading all the time, right? But try to catch up on your backlog. Always have books, nearby. And if you find a time when you can read, where you're like, I could be doing something else here, then do it. That means going to the bathroom. That means exercising on like a stationary bike. That means at night waiting to fall asleep. maybe in the morning if you can. Whenever you can, find some time to read. I'm definitely bringing a book with me for all the gigs I have, because between sets where we're doing nothing, get a book light, turn the lights on. There you go. I'm not much of a restaurant bar person, so I can just slink in a corner, read until I have to play again. Sounds good, right? And the last thing of my updates, I have gig prep. Yes, I've been practicing. I've been getting songs together, been rehearsing with people. Things seem to be going pretty well. I mean, it's easy. It's just dealing with possibly some politics and whatever drama might happen or issues that might happen, during these gigs and such. And things are going to happen. Just want to make sure that the music is taken care of. So a first little thing today, I call this the summer shift. Of course, we've been shifting over to summer for quite a while, but I kind of had this thing the past few weeks where I've been looking at everything that I've kind of like amassed and how I've arranged everything, and said like, yeah, I want to change everything. I really kind of don't like what I've done with the place. And I need to clean up a lot of messes. And that's not like the room behind you that you can see behind me is not messy. But I do have a messy sort of desktop on my computers, and, apps to take off the phone, things rooms I go into that I'm like, that should be moved here. Just a way to make things more efficient and make sure everything is more useful. Just like when I meal prep, I want to be able to have something I need when I need it. I don't want to be devoting time every day to it if I can devote one sort of more efficient time to do everything. And I want that for my entire life. I always want to be getting better at doing things and making things more efficient, make things easier. Time is fleeting. I blink and these days off are like gone. And because I front load every day with like exercising, waking up early, I have more time to do things. But if you subtract the time for eating meals, preparing meals, stretching that I do at the end of the night, a few other things that I have to do in there that just to keep up hygiene, stuff like that. It really doesn't, that takes a number of hours away from the day. And it almost feels sometimes these days you don't have to do anything, that you're just running this schedule of just keeping yourself alive, and you're really not accomplishing anything. And that's why I like to try to get things prepped so I can accomplish something. I can feel like I've accomplished something, because really it all comes down to how you feel. If you feel you've accomplished something every single day, then you should be able to go to sleep and feel good, good job, what you've done. And yeah, I think I try for that every single day, but some days I'm just getting by with that. So what goals do I have for the summer? Definitely reading, a lot more reading. The reason I kind of put this on the slide is that I do want to have goals. I do want to change how I dress, at least for in the fall, checking out what I did last year and what I think I should try to do this year. Teachers like to come up with themes for their classroom, and I don't know if I specifically want a theme. I kind of want to just take care of everything that I'm doing already and just kind of bring it to the forefront. And I talked about that in previous episode about themes that I had, and I just kind of want to bring that more over. But I also want to look a little bit more professional, if that can be. I mean, I've always worn ties, sports coat. I don't know. Just trying to change maybe how I look a little bit, and I guess improve upon things if I can. But that's just like a subtle thing aside from improving upon what I can offer students and everything else. But one of my big goals for the summer is to pre-plan a lot of things so that I'm following plans and not having a few weeks where I go, what am I going to do? Okay. And then taking weekends up doing that, because it looks like this year I might be in only one school, which will allow me, it kind of plants my mind in one place. So it allows me to just focus more in one place and sort of integrate things. Because that's one thing I really want to do this year, is integrate a lot of different things in there, like after school programs, other classrooms, other UA teachers, things like that. Kind of our everyone's goal, and it's kind of one of the big goals that in every book I've ever read text on teaching or educating for music or anything, it's about collaborating and just kind of tying things together, the way everything works in the world, right? So one of the big things is, how can I measure my goals this summer? Well, I always have the goal for my workouts of getting stronger and being able to do more, and those are improving. And I'm going to probably have a bigger shift with those in the next month or so that I can prep myself for. Well, I've already prepped myself for the summer schedule. I wake up earlier now, and I'm getting used to waking up at 4:50. I'm still working towards 4:30 to be like the ultimate wake up time. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I read about it. Some of these billionaires or whatever that say that they wake up at that time, but it's also because it gives me enough time to do maybe a little bit. I have the workouts I do in the morning, but I'd like to do some reading or some time to just recover from the workout. And then at the same time, I can eat a little bit more in the day. And I think that's going to help with recovery as well. And so I can measure that. I can measure how strong I get by the amount of weights I lift, or exercises, how I feel, things like that. Other things, other goals. Well, I'm going to have gigs. I do want to start getting a studio back in order so I can do recording again. And I kind of want to make it so that I can have something that just works out for me. I can walk in this room, I can record, I can do episodes of this podcast with ease, and maybe have a machine that can process audio and video faster and without crashing. Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. And I guess I can measure it by output. How do you measure your goals? I guess by output. Now, there will be changes made in my life. I'm always changing, things I have in my diet, but not specifically my whole diet. I have been plant-based for, it's now 2.5, over 2.5 years. That's not going to be any change different. It's just more foods I've been adding in. But not really talking about that so much as just changes in your life and how you go about things. So prioritizing things and maybe adding something new. The summer's given me some time to think about things, find out what's important to me, as well as, looking back into my past and going, oh, why did I stop doing that? And I don't have a lot of answers for that. Last recording I made of just music I've played, I think I did it last year, but it's because I had to do for somebody else, and it was just a scratch recording, something done quickly. But the last serious recording I've done was probably in 2006. So for those listening, 2006, think about that, how long ago that was. And before that, probably the biggest year for my recording was around 2004, 2005. I think 2004. I had something to do every single day, whether I had to, when I was in school, whatever, I'd come back and I'm like, I have to do this. And I was like living in an apartment in one of like the most giant cities in probably the largest city. I think it is the largest city in Maine. Living in an apartment, and I had a walk-in closet that had my computer in it, and just set my things up and just brought in instruments, plugged them in, recorded right there. And I think I did the most recording I've ever done in my life in that year. And I can still listen to the music and go, oh, that was interesting when I did. That was interesting. And it was so long ago. And I don't have the software now. It's the same software I was using back then. Operating systems change, things don't work. But it was just one of those, I have better equipment now. But yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of ideas and I had a lot of free time, I guess, and I wanted to do something with it. I also had needs for my music, so don't really have a need right now to record anything. It was years later that I decided to put everything up on, YouTube was much, much later. But it was on Bandcamp and things like that. Put it for free. And I made $1, I think. Made $1. It was pay if you want to, and someone gave me $1. But yeah, not a big money maker. And that was like, I think 100 pieces of music, at least, spread out over like 10 to 15 different albums. So yeah, not here for making money, I guess. Not at all. But I was different back then, and now I'm different. And I still want to make some changes because I kind of want to include things that I stopped doing back then. So I'm kind of decluttering my life with things that I don't really need. And yeah, it's busy, but I have a calendar, I have a watch that can alert me when I have to do something, and I don't mind following that. I kind of respect having a little bit of time for a break more than having a lot of time. In other words, if I'm these mornings when I'm working in this summer program, it ends at like 11:30, and I have so much energy, and I'm like, great, let's do stuff. And I feel like it's the end of a school day. So I feel like, oh, it's 3:30. Nope, it's earlier. And it's that sort of like, okay, I'm building up, for some great work to do, and not having that work to do means I should probably come up with something. So that might be something with music. That might be something that is another project that I can do in that little span of time. I think when we change things about ourselves, we try to make things easier. And that's great. You should have things prepped so you can eat on a schedule, prep so that you can have, things out for maybe clothing or for how you want to do something, things planned ahead, basically. But I think you should also at the same time make things a little bit harder. And that is push yourself in certain areas and see if you can add more into it. In other words, if someone's interested in like biking, maybe they're going to add more biking into their schedule. Maybe they're going to try something harder place to bike. I mean, that's kind of what, for a teacher having a lot of time off, that's basically what you want to try to do. You want to kind of pull yourself back to your own life and then find some way to, live it. And living it is not just being complacent and sitting back and having others live in front of you, kind of like watching movies, TV, things like that. You want to be living it yourself. So try doing something that's difficult. Try doing something that's different. And whatever you do, currently make it a little bit harder. Try for those lofty goals. The bands I'm in, learning new songs, possibly, having another side project with somebody. Little things like that, to me, are going to make my life a little more harder, but more interesting. And of course, I have an excuse as an out in the fall anyways, because, hey, look at everything's beginning again. And I've got this giant obligation to make this school year coming up the greatest, because it's definitely going to be interesting and possibly more difficult. So, you know what I just realized? I just switched to slide, and I kept the slide from a few weeks ago. But not a problem there, right? Because this medieval church still applies. It's a mixed bag. Yeah, so mixed bag. When someone says it to you, this is a mixed bag, what does it mean to you? It probably means something's good and bad together, right? Like this thing on, I guess, TikTok right now, which I don't even I know nothing about TikTok. I saw someone make a video one time and they added music to it and they said, I'm putting it on TikTok. And I guess that's what TikTok is. I don't look into this stuff. Social media for me is very limited because, as I said, am I busy? Yeah. But a mixed bag is a mix of good and bad. And I related it to TikTok because everyone, right now, this big thing coming across, everyone's eating watermelon with mustard on it. At least that's what I've seen. And everyone's like, watermelon? Some people like watermelon. And then they like, well, I like mustard. I like watermelon. But I just can't see them together. And then people are trying and going, wow, this is really good. I haven't tried it yet, but it's going to happen. It is going to happen. And I actually have both those ingredients in my house currently. So I wouldn't say one's good and one's bad, but it's kind of a mixed bag right there, right? The salty and the vinegary and the sweet together. That's what you get. So masks off, cares to the wind is my first little bullet point on this slide, which just means, yes, in the state I'm in right now, masks are off. People seem to be a little bit more carefree, a little bit more careless, I guess, because I do see people hugging and getting up in everyone's face and stuff. And it's just like, well, we're good now. Everything's good. And I'm still a little more cautious about everything. I still do the whole sanitizing of my hands after touching anything that's not in my house. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my idea of, as an introvert, seeing everybody else not be as diligent as I have been. And I think that's kind of a thing. It's the mixed bag world. I still do see people with their masks on. I still do people that seem like we're still in a pandemic, and I guess we're still in one. But then I see others that are like, it's nothing. This is just the same old. This is me in 2019, doing things. So things are not the same as they once were. Things are not the same. Things are different. I just feel everybody feels like, I don't know, we just came out of something major. And maybe once I start playing in front of groups of people more than students, I might see a general, I don't know, excitement to be back. And people just kind of, I don't know, kind of willing to push the envelope a little bit. I'm thinking of the first gig I actually have, which is at a bar, far, kind of like an hour and a half, I think, away from where I am right now. And people might want to push their drinking or their dancing skills a little further, being around live music again. And we'll see what happens with that. But things just really aren't the same. I think we have knowledge of what happened before, and I think it's just not going to be something that we're going to forget. And I make these generalizations all the time in the show, and I'm sorry for doing that. But when I say we, I'm just talking about everybody, humanity in general. But I realize that I'm not really addressing everybody. I don't know who listens to this show. I don't know what my audience specifically is. It could be teachers. It could be some students that discover this. And I want to make sure that I want to give respect to everybody. I think we all have common sense. I think we all want to do well by everybody else. And I think we want to take care of ourselves and others that we care about. And when I say something like a generalization of we think this, we think that, I'm just meaning that we as a collective whole who care about other people, whether you're a teacher or not, we generally want to make sure everyone's okay. And I think we as a whole understand that things are not the same and things aren't going to go back to the way they were. And I've said that many times in the show, and I'm sorry for constantly bringing stuff up like this. I just feel that I've learned a lot during this time with the pandemic, and I kind of value a few things differently than I did before. For those that only listen to this, I basically make slides and I have bullet points, and I'm looking at them right now. The first one I wrote, masks off, cares to the win. Second was things are not the same. The third I wrote, the good is not that good. And it's kind of funny because it's like a pessimistic way of looking at everything. Like, I was like, this is so good. It's like, it's not that good. I mean, yes, we can always improve upon everything. The good stuff that happens to me now, and it's been like this for my life basically. I always wait for like something bad to happen after, or I just wait for it to just something to not be as good. It's something, someone does something for you, or something, you get something and you're like, this is great. And then you just try to look for some issue with it because you're like, it can't be that good. And I think maybe it's my self-esteem, feeling that I just don't deserve everything to be perfect and work out, because things haven't they just don't always work out. So I always try to have this idea that the glass is half full and also half empty. So it's almost whatever you're drinking, you're half done it. You only have a half left. Or you can think of it as, well, I just had someone just gave me a half, and I could have more. But most often I think of things being finite and that things are going to end. So the good is not that good. Below that, my point was the bad is not that bad. So maybe that's the flip side of that. So as bad as things could get, it's not really that bad when you put everything in perspective, right? I'm glad that those that I know, family and such, weren't heavily affected by the pandemic. But the stories I hear of those that were, I feel horrible that they've had to go through this. And yeah, it's affected everybody differently. I mean, mentally, we're all different. And I'm going to see that. I've seen this somewhat so far, this 1 week into the summer school, and I've seen kind of the toll it's taken on some students. In the fall, when the full onslaught of the 650 so students come back to the school, I feel it's going to be a wake-up call to everybody who thought that we could all get through this without some lasting effects, because it's definitely going to affect us. But that's going to be a mixed bag, right? You have them coming back, those that have had a horrible time, and you bring them back into a caring environment with structure, and you want to do everything you can to help them learn and make them feel comfortable. So it's always, to me, every day is honestly a mixed bag during a normal school year. And it's the fact that I see 7 different classes during the day. I could have one class just somebody does not want to be there, and they want me to know that they don't care about what I'm talking about. And it could just, the whole class could just be pivot around that one person, or the group that person sort of like coerced into being defiant. And that class could be like, oh, wow. I was like, wow, that class, I want to think about that class. I want to help that person. I want to fix it. But 5 minutes later, another class, completely different class, not just different class, different grade level. because I see every grade level every single day, 5 days a week. It's all 650. Yeah. But it's just that you can't dwell on that problem. You have to move on. And it's just one of those horrible, horrible things that you can write it down. You can think about it later at the end of the day, unless you have something to do at the end of the day that's more pressing, and then you have to shut it off, by the end of the night, so you can just sleep, wake up early, do the entire thing again. Which is kind of why I wake up early and do what I do, because I want to have a win in the morning before I have a lot of losses during the day. Geez, that should have been a great show theme. Wins in the morning. Maybe I should do that next time. So life is about upgrading your reality. I thought that was a nice little, wasn't a quote, just a phrase I thought about. Your reality is everything you do throughout the day, how you perceive the world. And you're constantly upgrading it because you're constantly being reminded of how things are changing. And during this time of constantly adapting and constantly changing to, how you feel, how the environment is, it changes, and how you react with others, you're upgrading, you're improving, and you're living. So life is going by while you're doing all this. You have to stop every now and then and go, wow, that was amazing. That was great. Be thankful that you went through something, that you could feel that or experience something. But I think it's constantly this upgrade that's happening. And even though it seems like we were put on hold for a while with the pandemic, we weren't really put on hold. We still lived. We found something different in ourselves, maybe more than one thing. And we changed about how we viewed things. We changed maybe that, not just our life flow or workflow, but maybe our mentality for thinking about things. And so I could write life is about upgrading your mentality. Upgrading to me doesn't mean, it's not just making things better, but it's sort of taking something to the next step, the next level. And you're always going to the next level, whether you want to or not. Your body's got processes that are going on right now. Some of them you do not want them to continue, but they're going to. And, reading about that right now, hopefully finishing up Lifespan soon, but read that book, Lifespan by David Sinclair, and you'll know what some of those processes that are happening in your body right now that you might not want to happen, and maybe how to combat sort of them. That's the thing called aging. It's the one thing no one likes. Or, like, I'm not generalizing, but maybe some of you do like to age. But in general, staying young and feeling healthy and feeling somewhat invincible is something I think we'd all like to do, or at least most of us. So my last little point I have on this slide, and I just wrote mixed bag, get used to it. Life is the yin and yang. Life is goods and bads. It's events that you don't like. It's events you do like. It's being able to experience these things and to go on in spite of them. I never allow myself to get too happy or too excited about anything, because I just don't like the letdown of when it doesn't happen anymore. I also, at the same time, try not to get too upset about anything, because I know it's going to come back around. I know that as bad as something might be, there's going to be some sort of silver lining and things will get better. So it's this sort of neutral zone that I'm always trying to maintain, this kind of homeostasis, much like my body's trying to do all the time. And I think that's a good way to kind of think about it. Life is a mixed bag. Events in your life are a mixed bag. You can constantly be happy, and that's great if you are optimistic about everything happening every single day. But please don't let a bad day absolutely ruin that and change you for the worse. Realize it's just a mixed bag, and maybe eventually you'll get to a neutral position where something happens good, you're like, oh, that's great. Something happens bad, you're like, oh, it's too bad. You're going to live through it. So, our rant today, and this is something that I am excited about once I'm able to finally get down a time with Mr. Ritchie to do these podcasts again. It is a new educator show, but it's also something we've been talking about, some sort of format change we're talking about. And here are some of my ideas on it. And here we go. So 60 seconds to talk about this. I want to do more We Are the Educator shows. I want to invite more guests onto these shows. I also think we're going to have to change some formats around and some different aspects of this show, as well as possibly add another show in. And that other show is going to be centered around specifically going and looking at other videos, reacting to them, but in a more science-based way. We did some things before, and we talked about that science. We had a couple of videos we've done like that, but we want to do something a little more, I guess, more strictly science. And we have some ideas like that we don't want to give away yet, but I'm definitely excited about that sort of thing, that prospect. And it's going to be about scheduling, about planning, because no one seems to have the time, even when we thought we would have time. The summer is about timing, having free time as a teacher, and yet I'm just not having it. I know I'm teaching summer school. I know I'm in a class. I know I've got, obligations to the family, and I know I've got gigs to do and plan for. But I've been able to maintain all that stuff in the past. I could work and have I could even have another job outside of school. I worked after school. I could have done that, and I still have private lessons I teach. I'm busy, but I've always been able to maintain all of that. So that's not the problem. It's coordinating that with someone else. That there lies the problem. So that when two people can line up their schedules so that they can meet and get something done. And then it's, of course, making the technology work for us so it comes out the way we want. And honestly, nobody has time for video editing. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining me on episode number, it says 63, but I mean 65. Sorry, it's another slide that I messed up on. You can see how tedious it becomes to constantly do shows, right? Yeah, I guess I've been a little busy. This format of the slides that the podcast listeners don't understand, you never see this, of course. But for those watching on YouTube, I'm going to probably get rid of the slides soon, and I'm going to be doing a different format, just for the fact that I don't think it matters if people see what I'm talking about or whatever pictures I'm showing, because it really comes down to a person talking, so it's not really that important. But I do have some ideas for how I want the show to be edited, and that does require an upgrade, like I mentioned before. Or just maybe I'm going to find some software out there that just works on this old, tired machine whose fans are running incredibly loud right now, and possibly during this show, which I don't always hear when I'm editing. So everybody should take care. It's July 4th. If you're in America, celebrate however you can. That's safe. Don't light your shirt on fire, or go someplace where people are a little lax with their skills for pyrotechnics. And make sure you enjoy the summer. So far, I will definitely see you next week, whether it's myself or with another person, because the educators are hopefully coming back. And take care.